Hello, we are here. We're ready to start our first week of our Psalm study. We've done our practice lesson in Psalm 117, but this week we are jumping right into wisdom Psalms. And before we start studying this week, I wanted to give you just a heads up and a little bit of instruction of what these wisdom Psalms mean. And so they are, it's not exactly connected to a specific act of worship, but they are meditations and teachings on a good life. So these Psalms that we're studying this week will provide a lot of instruction, and there are a lot of contrasts in them. So wisdom Psalms will typically contrast good versus evil, righteous versus wicked, wise versus foolish. So you can look for those themes as we are studying this week. Also, it's important to remember as we are getting into the Psalms that scholars aren't exactly sure who wrote all of the Psalms. King David wrote a lot of them, but they weren't all written by him. And the Psalms actually range from the time of Moses to the time of the Babylonian exile, when the Jews were in exile. And so it's basically the Psalms are a collection or compilation of songs and prayers written in a 1,000-year period. So they are and they're just kind of scattered in together. So sometimes we'll be reading really early Psalms. Sometimes we will be reading later Psalms. The final edition of Psalms finally was formatted into its current order after the Babylonian exile and before Christ's birth. So by the time Jesus was born, the Psalms were the Psalms, what they are now. David was definitely the number one influencer in the book of Psalms, and 73 of the 150 Psalms refer to him in some way. Now, what I have noticed, if you are using the Simply Bible study guide, they sometimes the Psalms will say who wrote it, or maybe the conditions of what was going on when it was written, and this study does not. So you'll have to refer to your Bible or a Bible app to find that information. This week, as we're studying the Wisdom Psalms, we are studying 4 of them, and they are Psalm 1. We get to start off our Psalm study with the first Psalm. We will study Psalm 19 on day 2, Psalm 49 on day 3, and Psalm 112 on day 4. So get ready. You are going to learn so much wisdom that is completely applicable for our lives today.